Only 4 sets of brothers have kicked more than 1,000 goals in VFL AFL history. The family names are Coventry, Ablett, Matthews and Rocca. The Roccas, Sav and Anthony, sit third on the table with 1,163 goals. That's some achievement, boys. Welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
You've got to be proud of that. And the other thing that you're entitled to be really proud of those sets of brothers, you are the only ones who have both kicked 400, or a minimum of 400.
It is. It's a magnificent achievement, considering those names, Coventry, Matthews and Ablett.
They're big, aren't they?
They're huge. Sav and I would agree that those guys are so far in front of us that it's a magnificent honour. You're both best remembered as Collingwood players, but you only played 4 seasons together. Yeah, I'm very grateful for those 4 seasons, I can tell you that. It's a reason why I wanted to leave Sydney and go to Collingwood, absolutely.
But you actually didn't want to go to Sydney, did you?
Not at all.
No.
No, not at all.
So, Sav, I want to ask you, this is the elder of the brothers. Anthony's drafted at 17 years of age by a team outside Victoria. You're a very close Italian family.
Yep.
What was the reaction when the Swans had taken your little brother?
It was a little bit disappointing initially because we were hoping to stay together. And then we just made it work, you know. He went up, you know, Mum spent some time up there as well with him and, you know, had a plan of, you know, playing there and then coming back probably when it was finished, and that's how it worked out.
Did it ever cross your mind that you might stay in Sydney, even after the early dislocation of the family? You've had 2 years there before you finished, but on the way through, were you ever going to stay?
There was nearly, in my mind, nearly the end of the 2 years where I'd thought about it really hard, but the possibility of playing my brother and the reality of it was what I wanted to do. So once we made it happen, it was all systems go.
I'm just incredulous at how your first season unfolded with the Swans. You're 17, your family's in Melbourne and you're commuting to play AFL football. How did that happen?
Well, I stood my ground for a while and didn't go up. I watched the Swans play Ansett Cup, it was back then, at Waverley. A couple of times was in the change rooms and still involved in a sense being a Sydney player in that sense. But in the end, we come to the agreement where I would fly up for training one night, the night before the game. And some occasions, it was 2 nights before a game, I'd come back to school, then go up again to play.
That can't last, can it?
No, it can't. No. It was hard. It was hard, but that's what it was. That's what got me to play AFL football. That's what it took.
So 2 years there, 22 games, and then you're finally released. Yep. The Swans, who said they'd play hardball, then capitulated and agreed to a trade with Collingwood. You were at Collingwood at the time, Sav. Mark Orchard, Ben Wilson and 2 high draft picks were exchanged for your brother.
Yep.
But weren't you away when the trade was done? Weren't you on the Collingwood end-of-season trip?
Yeah, we might have been on an end-of-season trip when we heard the news, and you know it was disappointing. You know, to the players that were leaving.
Yeah.
But then again, you know, it was the opportunity that I got to play with Anthony.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, they bent the rules, Anth, didn't they? I mean, wasn't that deal done about 2 hours after the trade deadline?
Yeah, I was sitting in the manager's office. My manager was Rob Conti, who's my cousin as well. So I was sitting in there, and the deadline had gone, but he told me not to go anywhere. And about an hour or 2 later, the deal happened. So I think some of the hiccups were they couldn't get in contact with the Collingwood players at the time because they were so far away, and I think maybe 1 or 2 of them didn't really want to leave the footy club as well. But you know, I felt bad for some of those players because I had a connection with Sav and to the Collingwood Football Club at that stage. But some of us become teammates afterwards as well with Scotty Orchard.
Yep. Your parents are both of Italian descent. How were they when you, Sav, come home and say, "I'm going to play this game called Australian football"?
A buddy of mine asked me to play, you know, local football, and Dad said no. So I thought, okay, I can't play. I continue with what I was doing. And then a little while later, he came back and said, our ruckman split his finger open. He can't play anymore. We really need you. So I went back to Dad, and he said, no, you can't play. And I thought, you know, just let me play a couple of games, you know, 1 or 2 games. So I ended up playing a couple of games, and then it just stemmed on from there. Ended up playing really well, and you know,
so what was their opposition to it? Was it just that it was a foreign game, or were they worried about the injury factor?
You know, did they not want me to get hurt? I had, you know, intentions of being a discus and shot put thrower.
You were very good at that, weren't you?
Yeah, you know, I won the under-19s Australian Championship when I was 16. So they set me on that path, and I was on that path, and I thought that this wouldn't take me away from it. You know, it was just a couple of local games I'll play and, you know, be done with it.
Did you have genuine Olympic aspirations then?
Yeah, I wanted.
Were you online to get to that level?
That was my. I was online. My coach thought I was, and that's where I wanted to go. So. What
was your best? You were a shot putter and a discus thrower. Which was the premier event for
Probably
you?
the discus.
Mm.
Yeah.
In 1997, your first year together, did your parents go and watch you play?
Every game.
Every game?
Every game, interstate.
And did they get involved? They went to the interstate games, did they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Old man would come training.
Really?
He loved it that much. He's the unofficial Collingwood cheer squad.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was there before and after games. They were in the rooms and did the whole lot.
Your mother's Anna?
Yep.
Yeah, she was the same? Wasn't worried about her two little boys being hurt?
No, she watches footy more than us right now.
Does she really?
Yeah.
What's the highlight as a pair? I mean, I know you're not big on stats, Sav, but do you remember 1997 when clearly you just embraced each other spiritually in the fact that you were playing together? You remember you kicked 13 goals between you one game? Do you remember that?
No.
You don't? Do you remember you played at Collingwood?
I remember that one.
You kicked 9 and Anthony kicked 4.
Right.
Wasn't the other way around?
No, yours was goal assists.
Yeah, it was.
At Victoria Park against Freo.
Okay.
Must be a special significance, an event like that.
Yeah, it is. My one was the first game against Port Adelaide.
Yep.
Port Adelaide's first game into the competition. We both had a relatively good game, and I remember that the intensity of the game was huge, and I think we won by a lot. That was special.
So it was special because you were together finally.
Yep.
It was a lot leading up to that. You know, I always thought that, you know, we'd get the opportunity at some stage.
You did, yeah.
And because I knew that, you know, Collingwood wanted him there, and I was told that they're going to try everything to get him there. So it was that game that, you know, we'd done a lot of stuff to get him there, and it was good to, you know, go out there and experience that.
Yeah. You had a big year that year, 110 goals between you.
A lot of it was first half, I reckon. A lot of it was first half of the year, and we had a really good start to the year. But we faded. We faded late in the year, but yeah, it was pretty special that year.
And 96 was a grand final year for the Swans.
Yep.
Did that factor into your thoughts when you were deciding whether you wanted to come home or not?
I knew from once I was drafted to when I was leaving.
You did. You were never going to stay permanently.
I wasn't going to stay permanently. No. The Sydney Swans did a lot for me. I'm forever grateful for that. They treated me really well, and you know, I wish I would still have good friends from that team. But you go to different ways, separate ways. But I played with some great players: Plugger Lockett, Paul Kelly, played with Paul Roos, Michael O'Loughlin. Justin Crawford as well, so a few of those guys who I got along with pretty well. Andrew Dunkley at the time. Look, I knew I was coming back.
So, but you didn't know when you made that commitment to yourself that the Swans were going to play in the grand final in '96.
No.
And clearly were in the premiership window.
Yeah. I remember running out in that grand final day with the Swans.
Now, what were you doing there?
We were emergency, and they thought it would be pretty special for those 3 emergencies to run out in that day. The problem was I was running back in and they were booing me on the way back in.
Because they knew... Did they leave you out of the team in the latter part of that season because they knew you were going home?
I don't think so. Look, how do you leave out Tony Lockett and Jason Mooney was having a really good year, and guys who were kicking goals, and I had some really good form in the twos leading up to that grand final, and there were some injury clouds to the Swans players going into that grand final, but they were never going to miss, and I was never going to replace some of those good players.
So have you topped the goal kicking at your 2 clubs, Collingwood and North, a total of 10 times? That's a big record, that. I mean, that puts you up into the elite category of... I think you're the top 13 or 14 in the goal kickers in the history of the game.
Yep.
I don't think that's a really good... I don't think he gets the recognition for that.
No, I was going to defer to you then when he gave me that very short answer. I think he's undersold.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And a lot of the people that work with Sav or are close to Sav, they say that all the time. Like, he's not recognised for the achievements that he's done in his AFL career.
To me, you seem like a more passive soul than your brother. Do you ever think that? Do you ever sort of reflect on your career and think that you perhaps didn't get the recognition you deserve?
Not at all. You know, I was there. I had my time, and I enjoyed it, playing it. Do I look back now and think, you know, I was the best goal kicker, on 10 occasions at those clubs? No, not really. I did what I did, and I enjoyed it at the time. So now it's, I'm on to the next phase of my life. And
before we get to the next phase, were you disappointed that I think you topped the goal kicking at Collingwood 7 or 8 times in a row, and then an ordinary year after that, and then you dumped effectively, weren't you?
Yep.
Did that hurt?
Absolutely. Yeah, leaving Collingwood was like family to me, and I did everything that I could to stay there at the time. Had a patellar tendonitis issue in the knee. And I thought I was coming good and was coming good towards the end of the season, but Mick at the time thought it would be best for me to move on.
And so, did he deliver that message to you?
Well, it was being reported in the papers that I most likely wouldn't be at the club. So I went to Mick and asked him, what the thoughts were behind the team and behind the club, and that's when he actually said to me that he thought I should retire.
Really?
At that time, and I said no, my playing days weren't over at that time, so.
Well, you had 5 more years ahead of you, didn't you?
I played another 6 at North.
Another 6, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I offered to take pay cuts and do whatever I could to stay there, but no, he thought I should move on. But looking back now, it may have, kept our careers, going longer, especially for me going to North.
Do you think it rejuvenated you, the change of clubs?
I think so.
Yeah.
And just going to North, I loved my time there, and, they treated me really well, so I was happy. Once I got there and took that next step. It was just the uncertainty at the time of whether you're going to play more football and do something that you dearly loved, whether you're going to keep doing that.
So you've had 100 plus games at both clubs. Where's the heart?
A bit of both. It's, I love both clubs. It's I think about it often, do I like Collingwood less than North? Probably not, but do I dislike Collingwood because they got rid of me? Yeah, maybe. There's a part of me thinking, I wanted to stay and they actually, burnt me, sort of thing. But I mean, that's what happens in football these days. And
then you're watching your little brother, keep saying little, your younger brother, playing a couple of grand finals for Collingwood.
Yep.
Yeah. What are your memories of those?
Yeah. Hoping, I was watching, and wish that I was there.
Yeah.
Playing in those games, and could it have been a difference? But that's the way it went.
You're listed, Anthony, as kicking 4 goals won.
Five goals.
But you're in the books as 4 goals won against Brisbane in a game the Lions won by 9 points.
Yep.
There was a lot of conjecture about a shot of yours for goal at a critical period late in the game. Was it a goal or not?
There's not a week go by that someone reminds me of that. Absolutely. And it hurts. It hurts a lot. But it was a goal. To me, it was a goal, and to many other supporters, it was a goal.
So you were sure?
100%.
Yeah, and it was a set shot, so you had a good look at it.
I celebrated.
Yeah.
I celebrated to the point where I was out of the position of my zone, and the ball went down the other end.
That would have put you in front, wouldn't it?
I think it just would have put us a couple of points in front.
Should you have won that day? It was a Collingwood day, wasn't it? I mean, as good as Brisbane were, they were a great side, but pretty sloppy conditions down here, pretty grey and miserable.
Yeah.
I think there was one goal kicked in the first quarter that day.
Those conditions suited us.
Yep.
Knowing it was a bit of rain, a bit greasy. We weren't the most talented team, but we were a very good team when we gelled together. But they're a magnificent side. A lot of points kicked early in the game. And then some bloke kicked one just from outside 50 and
Who was
got the
that?
ball. That was me.
As if we didn't know.
That was a trivia question. But should have we won that game? Who knows? We played well. We played well enough, but we just couldn't get it done right at the end.
Were you there that day?
Yep.
Yeah. What were your feelings? Here's the team that sort of snubbed you, and your brother's playing for it. Clearly, you'd be hoping they'd win.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted him to have all the glory that he could possibly get, and I thought it was a goal too. So, it's just the way it went, and it didn't get. The goal umpire thought it was a point, so it's hard.
So grand finals obviously favourite. Although you missed a grand final, didn't you? Did you whack someone from Port Adelaide?
Yeah, accidentally.
Accidentally.
Barely.
What, with your arm up?
Barely. My shoulder come up and grazed.
Your shoulder came up.
My elbow, sorry. But it hit the top of his shoulder and rolled up and grazed his top of his head.
Let's go to an impartial witness. You weren't far away from that, were you?
I was about 30 metres away from that incident.
And if you were sitting on the tribunal, what would you have said?
Let him off.
Right then and there, when I saw it on the field, I thought he's going to be in a bit of trouble.
Did you not say to yourself, "Oh no"?
I did say, "I know," yeah. But when I saw it on the footage and it looked like it came off his shoulder, I thought he might be able to get off it at that point in time.
That would have been a massive blow. Grand final week, your dreams of, the biggest event of the year, and you missed out.
I was disappointed. I was disappointed that I let my teammates down. Absolutely.
What did you say to Jason Cloak before you went out that day?
Well, Jason got reported the year before and missed the 2002 grand final. And before the game, I just told him, don't do anything stupid.
And on reflection, did you do something stupid? Or was it just a bit careless?
Careless, stupid, let my teammates down.
Yeah, okay.
I prided myself in being there for my teammates, helping my teammates. So it's nearly emotional talking about it because I feel like I really let them down.
Yeah, and did you say that? Did you address them? Or
I addressed them. I addressed the players the session the day before.
Did you?
Yeah.
At your request?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What did you say to them?
I just told them I let them down and it wasn't good enough, and they still had an opportunity to win the grand final. I get goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah. When we come back, boys, who kicked the Sherrin further? 10 finals for you, 6 wins and 4 losses. 3 finals for you, Sav, at 2 clubs, no wins.
Zip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any excuses?
No excuses. I think that the teams that we got into the finals with, we just barely got there and didn't have, a good enough team to obviously go further.
Yeah, so it was a reflection of the talent in the team, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about a game you played, a final for North. Elimination final, Etihad Stadium.
Yeah.
You were a bit late that night, weren't you?
I was a little bit late.
Did the police need to escort you to the ground?
Yes. I had the birth of my second son, Lucas. So
I was sitting in the back of that car.
Yes. So you'd been to the hospital with Sav?
Yeah. Because we thought if he had to leave, then we'd be support for his wife who was giving birth as well.
Or if he had to stay...
I wouldn't have been in the suite, but...
If he had to stay, you could have gone and played.
Well...
I think it's the AFL's fault because the game was actually supposed to be on the Saturday and they changed it to the Sunday the week before. So, and obviously, we had the birth on the pre-game sort of thing. So
do you remember what time you left hospital?
It was a 3:30 game. I got to the bench at 3:25ish.
Really?
And I got a call pretty much right when I got to the bench from Anthony. His phone was passed down from the crowd to me onto the bench, and that was my wife, and she told me that we had a baby boy.
Oh, so you didn't see the birth?
No, I left.
Okay, you left the
my wife said to go because
Yep.
we made a decision beforehand that if it ever came to that I'd stay as long as I could, and then I'd go to the game. So then I got the phone and went underneath and bawled my eyes out. And
Did you?
Yeah, it was pretty emotional.
So, well, it was lucky you were there. I mean,
Yeah, I was only sitting. I was probably sitting 8 rows from the bench. So I got the phone call and passed it down.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So, how did you play that day?
Kicked a couple.
Kicked a couple in the first quarter.
Kicked a couple in the first quarter. The team was up. We were, up and going in the first quarter, and then, got demolished from then on. There on in.
No finals, fond finals memories for you, but a couple of big Anzac days for you.
Yeah, and they're the games that pretty much stick in my head as being, the highlight of my career. 95
and 98, you won the Anzac Day medal both those games.
Yep. 95 being the big one, the big draw, and it was disappointing to have that draw, but looking back, it was probably fitting for the game, and it was the biggest game that I've been involved in.
When you talk about wanting for me to coming back to Collingwood, coming back to play with my brother, watching that game from Sydney, mate, what an experience to watch.
Yeah.
He was on fire, nearly 100,000 people there. What a game.
But did you play in the 98 game, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. And that would have been a massive thrill
97, 98,
yeah. The other end of the spectrum, the final game. You both played in that, in your final game?
Yep.
Yeah. That must have been emotional, wasn't it?
Very.
I don't remember a lot of the game, but I do remember coming with each
There
other.
you go. Does this bring back any memories?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, absolutely. That was right at the end of the game, and knowing it was his last game, that it was an emotional time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You surprised to see yourself emotional there? Joe Cool?
I didn't think I'd be that emotional. I used to watch, growing up, guys walk off the field at the last game and thinking, why are they crying for and all that sort of stuff. But, when I got to the middle there and that siren had gone, I thought, I've done this for 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's what I love the most in life, pretty much. So it's...
Well, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's...
You got a lump in your throat or not?
Yeah, a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
And I've got a picture of that. A couple of good teammates, Brownie and Richo, got me a picture of that blown up, and I keep it, at home. So it's very emotional.
Anthony, you can't take your eyes off it, can you?
No, look, you look at that, and look, it's got his family, it's got his dad, and his kids.
That's your
there
dad
as well.
too, mate.
Yeah, I know that.
Look at those quads. My quads don't look that good anymore. So,
but the other realisation is that you don't get to play in that magnificent stadium anymore, as well, in front of those so many people, and that's one of it as well. You do what you do because you love the game and you love playing in front of big crowds.
You still miss it?
Absolutely, I miss it, but I know I couldn't play it anymore.
Because you're on the bench. You're actually a development coach at Collingwood.
I get Bucks' messages.
Yeah, you get Bucks' messages. Yeah, they could come from worse coaches, I reckon. Like a couple of the Scott boys might be good.
No, he does well. He's pretty calm at times.
So do you relay all the messages to the runner?
Yep.
Do you?
The runner's got his headset as well,
Yeah.
so if he's not there, I relay him to him.
Yeah.
Or to the players on the bench.
So you're as close as you can be without playing, aren't you? You still miss it,
absolutely.
though? The adrenaline still runs?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Being that close on the ground is something I really enjoy. Absolutely. But I've been in the coach's box for a little bit, and that feeling, you got that feeling a little bit that you're still involved in the game. But yeah, it's good.
You both kicked the ball a mile. Two-part question. Who kicked it the furthest or the farthest? The second part's to come.
I know he'll always say him.
I know he'll always say him.
Yeah, but was one... Did you ever have a kick-off? Did you ever
We kicked a lot of training at Vic Park.
Yeah.
And, there was others involved. There was Bucks involved as well who could kick a good ball.
To be more technical, I reckon he had a better torp than me. But I found that I could drop punt almost, not quite as far as his torps, but my drop punts would go further than his.
So if you were both at 60, you'd take the shot at goal? You'd back yourself from 60?
Yeah.
Oh, back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't mean it. We weren't going to take you there this
Yeah, no,
afternoon.
not now.
I reckon we could still do it now.
Well, I suppose you don't lose that
Yeah.
timing, do you?
No.
I mean, just because you're big boys doesn't mean you can kick it that far.
I know I can. I can still kick 50, 60.
Given your background, it can't be a fluke that you can both kick the ball so well. Were you taught?
No, I don't think we're taught.
Self-taught.
Yeah.
Really?
I couldn't kick a goal from 20 metres out at local footy.
And so,
I took the mark and everyone would be, asking for the handoff.
really?
But literally be out of bounds from 20 yards
So
out.
what age are you taught? What were you at that time?
16.
16.
Yeah.
See, I struggle with that. To think that, I mean, I don't doubt your word, but you were so rhythmic when you played and kicked the ball so far. Where did the change occur?
We had a football in our hands a lot of the times, in the backyard, having shots at goal, all that sort of stuff, then go to the park and, be kicking goals. When you found that it was a problem, we tried to fix it. And then, at Collingwood, even though we were better, or I was better, still wasn't up to the standard. So then they got Peter McKenna down, and we had a little bit of extra work.
Yep.
And you take bits and pieces from everyone, from everything that tells you, and some things you discard and some things you keep.
Okay.
And they help you to become the person that you are.
So did you teach Anthony? Because you're nearly 4 years younger, aren't you?
Yep, absolutely. I learned from a lot from what Sav
Just watching?
did, yeah,
Yeah.
from watching.
Yeah.
I had a really good session up in Sydney with Tony Lockett one night.
In an educational sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
At the end of training, there was a patch where I was struggling with my accuracy, and would have been about an hour, and we spent that hour just goal kicking, and I reckon that for me was a real sense of my routine for goal kicking.
Plugger's probably one of the very few blokes who hasn't had a bout of the yips at some stage in his career. Did the yips afflict you too?
Oh yeah, I think
Yep.
so.
Yeah.
At certain stages, we were, that was probably the biggest thing in my career that, you want to keep a balanced performance, and I was probably a little bit on the wavier side. So, you know, and that was a part of it, the goal kicking.
You were the oldest NFL rookie, weren't you, when you went to the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yep.
What age were you?
33.
33. What sort of trepidation do you have when you're sort of going, across the world to play a game that you haven't grown up with, and you're 33 years of age?
Going over was like learning a new language, and sitting in the team meetings and the special teams meetings. It was like I didn't have a clue what was going on. I knew I could catch the ball from the snap and kick it a long way, but when it came to all the fine detail of what everyone else was doing, it was like I didn't have a clue what was going on. And it was like listening to someone speaking Japanese until, I sat with the kicker and, really learnt about it, that I really, grasped the game.
Which game did you like better?
I think football here I really enjoyed because the camaraderie between the players. Over there it's not as you have 3 teams within a team, and I didn't feel as connected to a team over there as I did here. But my body sense, I think I was more suited to playing NFL football.
Did you give it any thought, Ant, when you finished? Did you think that you might follow the same path?
Yeah, I did. I actually went over and had a tryout.
Did you?
I spent a bit of time with Darren Bennett kicking, and had a tryout with New York Giants at the time. So.
And what happened?
Look, they wanted me to come back for a pre-season camp, and I thought about it. I thought it was what I wanted to do, and then the passion, the burn wasn't as intense as it was for me as I was playing AFL football.
Was the money in American football significantly higher than what you were getting in AFL?
Not
Just
initially.
Clear your throat, Anthony.
Not initially. I was on 3 years of rookie wage sort of thing, which is just base salary.
Like, is that like $1 million for 3 years?
No, not quite. No. It's probably just slightly higher than the average wage at the moment here in the AFL.
Which is what, 300, isn't it, Ant?
About 200 or 300.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in the mix of that for 3 years, and then my last 3 to 4 years were better than that.
It's been a great career for both of you. I mean, I agree with Anthony. I think yours is undersold. Yeah. When you've got 500 games between you and more than 1,000 goals, not bad for 2 little Italian boys from the northern suburbs. Congratulations to both of you, and I hope we've reminded you a bit about how good your career was.
Thank
Sav.
you. Thanks, Mike. Sure. Thank you. So, mate.
This has been a Fox Footy production, part of the Fox Sports Network.
Hi, Dermot Burton. I know what you're thinking. Thursday night, pie night. What's going to happen to my favourite show, League Teams? Woo-hoo, relax. Derm's going to speak in the third person, and he's managed to pull a few strings. We're moving to Wednesday night. You're welcome.
Derm, any chance we could have our meeting in an office for once? Seriously.
League Teams, live Wednesday on Fox Footy.